When Cherry Blossoms Whisper. Volume 5, Eternity in a Moment. Chapter 1, 3 years later. The cherry tree stood as it always had, its delicate pink blossoms swaying softly in the gentle spring breeze. But now, beneath its branches, a small plaque gleamed with a dedication, a symbol of memories that had endured the tests of time and separation. Haruto Soma stood quietly before it, the familiar rustle of petals stirring a fragile mix of nostalgia and hope in his chest. 3 years had passed since he last saw Sakura. 3 years filled with moments both lost and cherished, a silent ache buried deep beneath his calm exterior. His fingers brushed against the plaque, inscribed with a line from Sakura's most recent poetry collection, Whispers to a Boy Who Sketched, a title that made his heart tighten every time he read it. It was Ms. Hara who had pushed for its publication, insisting that Sakura's words deserved to be shared beyond their small town. Haruto had kept the first copy carefully framed in his tiny Kyoto apartment, but nothing compared to standing here now, beneath the very tree where their story had begun. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a sketchbook, flipping it open to a fresh page. His pencil hovered uncertainly, then began to move with a steady rhythm. Lines and shades emerged, slowly forming the image of the cherry tree, but not just any tree. This one was alive with the energy of their past, each petal a whisper of moments long gone but never forgotten. Haruto's thoughts drifted, his mind reaching back to those bittersweet days when distance had stretched between them like an unyielding winter. He remembered the nights when he would sit in his small studio apartment, staring at the blank canvas of loneliness until a message from Sakura would arrive, a photo of London's rain, a poem scribbled on napkins, or sometimes just a single word that carried all the meaning he needed, stay. Their connection had been fragile, stretched thin by miles and silent fears. Sakura's letters told stories of struggles and triumphs, of moments when she felt overwhelmed by the foreign world she had chosen. But in every letter, she spoke of him, the boy who saw the world in colors she thought she had lost. A soft laugh escaped Haruto's lips as he recalled one of her early messages, a poem written in trembling ink, "In the city of fog, your sketches are my only light." Those words had haunted him and inspired him in equal measure, pushing him to pour everything into his art, into the promise that one day they would stand beneath this tree again. The morning sun warmed his back as a gentle voice interrupted his reverie. "Haruto-kun." He turned to find Momo Suzuki approaching, her glittering smile as radiant as ever, a small bundle of papers clutched in her hands. "I brought the new poems from Sakura-senpai. Ms. Hara said you'd want to see them first." Haruto's eyes softened as he took the papers, the delicate handwriting flowing across the page like the cherry blossoms themselves. Each poem was a thread, weaving their story of longing, growth, and an unspoken promise to meet again. "Thank you, Momo," he said quietly. "This means more than you know." She tilted her head, her usual bubbly energy tempered by a rare seriousness. "It's like she never really left, right? Like she's still here, whispering through the petals." Haruto nodded, feeling the familiar ache in his chest. "Yeah. And I think, this time, it's different. I can feel it." He glanced back at the tree, now surrounded by a small group of curious onlookers who stopped to admire the plaque and the gentle beauty of the blooming branches. The moment felt sacred, a silent vow that no matter the distance, their story was far from over. As the afternoon light deepened into a warm glow, Haruto closed his sketchbook with a determined smile. The path ahead was uncertain, but beneath the cherry blossoms, amidst the whispers of the past and the promise of tomorrow, he was ready to find her again. Chapter 2, London Letters. The rain pattered softly against the fogged window of a tiny London apartment, the city's gray sky a stark contrast to the warmth of the dimly lit room. Sakura Aizawa sat curled on the narrow windowsill, a well-worn notebook resting on her knees. The glow of her desk lamp barely reached the edges of the room, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch with her own loneliness. She traced the familiar lines of her latest poem, words that felt heavier than usual, weighed down by memories and a gnawing homesickness she struggled to admit. It wasn't the cold or the distance that bothered her most, it was the silence between letters, the spaces where she feared her thoughts might unravel. Outside, the city hummed with life, but inside, Sakura felt adrift, tethered only by the thin thread of hope that Haruto still sketched, still waited. She pulled out a small envelope from the cluttered desk drawer, one of the many she had kept but rarely opened. It was worn around the edges, the paper soft with age, but inside was a letter she had treasured from Haruto, the boy who had always seen beyond her quiet perfection. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded the page. Haruto's sketches, sent every month without fail, captured the places she longed to see again: the cherry tree in bloom, the quiet park bench where they had once talked for hours, the little ramen shop where Kaido had first dared to share his dreams. Each drawing was a whisper, a message that even across oceans she was not forgotten. Tears pricked her eyes as she read the accompanying note, his familiar handwriting flowing gently. For every lonely night, may these sketches be a light to guide you home. Until the day we meet beneath the cherry blossoms again. Sakura's breath caught. The ache inside her softened, yet the bittersweet truth remained: this city, this life, was testing her in ways she had never imagined. Her days were filled with lectures and endless deadlines, the weight of expectations crushing in like the London fog that never seemed to lift. But at night, when the world quieted, she found solace in her poetry, her way of pouring out the storm she kept hidden from her classmates and the few friends she dared to trust. She thought often of Haruto, imagining the sketches he was making now, hoping his quiet humor and careful lines would never fade. It was his art that had saved her, just as her words had tried to reach him in return. The letter trembled in her hands as she forced a small smile, imagining the cherry tree, their tree, standing strong after years apart. Suddenly, her phone buzzed softly on the desk, breaking the stillness. A message from Haruto, a photo of a new sketch. The cherry tree in full bloom, a single sapling planted beside it, delicate and hopeful. Her heart fluttered. It was a promise she held close. No matter the distance, no matter the pain, their stories were still intertwined. A soft knock at the door startled her. It was Takumi, her brother, pausing with a warm smile and a steaming cup of tea. "You've been staring at those letters all night," he teased gently. "You miss home, don't you?" Sakura nodded, biting her lip. "More than I thought I would. But it's not just that, it's everything I left behind. The people, the moments, even the pain." Takumi stepped closer, his eyes softening. "You're stronger than you realize. And when you're ready, you won't be alone." She looked down at her notebook again, a single poem glowing under the lamplight. "In every whispered word, I find the strength to bloom again." And in that moment, surrounded by memories and longing, Sakura allowed herself a fragile hope. That soon, her journey would lead her back to the place where it all began, where love waited patiently beneath the cherry blossoms. Chapter 3: Publisher's Offer. The late afternoon sun filtered softly through the tall windows of Ms. Fuyumihara's cozy living room, casting a warm amber glow over the piles of papers and notebooks spread across her wooden desk. The air was thick with the scent of old books and fresh ink, a comforting sanctuary for a woman who had devoted her life to the power of words. Ms. Hara sat quietly, her fingers gently flipping through Sakura's poetry manuscripts. Each page held fragments of pain, hope, and the delicate fragility of a girl learning to carry her grief. It was more than just poetry, it was a confession, a silent plea for healing whispered through beautifully crafted verses. She smiled softly, the corners of her eyes crinkling. "Words outlive us," she murmured, a phrase she often repeated to her students, but now it felt deeply personal. Sakura's poems weren't just words, they were a legacy, an echo of a heart slowly opening, reaching for love and forgiveness. The phone rang, breaking the quiet. Ms. Hara picked up, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. "Yes, this is Fuyumihara speaking." After a brief pause, her eyes widened. "A poetry collection?" "Yes, we are very interested." "Sakura Aizawa's work?" "Yes, that is the same student. We believe her voice is extraordinary." She hung up, heart pounding with a mix of relief and anticipation. This was the opportunity Sakura had been too hesitant to seek, a chance to share her truth, to finally step out from the shadows of doubt and silence. Later that evening, Ms. Hara carefully drafted an email to Sakura outlining the publisher's offer, a full collection of her poems to be titled Whispers to a Boy Who Sketched, a tender nod to Haruto whose art had inspired every verse. It was a title that carried the weight of years apart, but also the hope of something still unbroken. Sakura received the email in the quiet of her apartment, her hands trembling as she read the words again and again. The offer felt like a lifeline thrown across the vast ocean separating her from everything familiar. But with it came a flood of emotions, fear of failure, the vulnerability of exposing her pain, and a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the moment she had been waiting for. She called Ms. Hara, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you. I don't know what to say. It's more than I ever dreamed." "You don't have to say anything," Ms. Hara replied warmly. "Just remember, Sakura, this is your story. You're not alone anymore." As Sakura hung up, her gaze drifted to the window, where the city lights flickered like distant stars. Somewhere far away, Haruto was sketching beneath the cherry tree, unaware that his quiet encouragement had helped her find her voice. That night, Sakura began revising her poems with renewed determination. Each line became a bridge, connecting past wounds with future dreams, her pain with the possibility of love and reunion. And as the first draft of Whispers to a Boy Who Sketch took shape, so did a new chapter in Sakura's life. One where silence gave way to courage, and poetry became a promise that some bonds could never truly be broken. Chapter 4. The Return. The afternoon breeze was cool and gentle, carrying with it the faint scent of cherry blossoms that still lingered, despite the late season. Haruto stood beneath the grand old cherry tree, his fingers tracing the delicate bark as his eyes scanned the familiar spot where Sakura's poems had been pinned months ago. The poems had long since been taken down for publication, but the memory of them and of her was etched deep inside him. He had come here almost every day since he left art school's crowded studios for this quiet place, finding comfort in the whispered echoes of the past. Yet today, an unfamiliar restlessness tugged at his chest. He glanced up, startled, when a shadow fell over the ground next to him. There she was, Sakura, the same poised, stoic girl who had once buried her pain behind careful lines, but now carrying something new. A small sapling wrapped in soft paper, cradled gently in her arms like a fragile secret. Haruto's breath caught. She looked at him with eyes that held storms and sunshine all at once. "I came back," she said softly, her voice trembling with a vulnerability she rarely allowed herself to show. "To plant this where we'll meet again." The sapling was a slender cherry tree just beginning its journey to bloom. Haruto's heart pounded as he knelt to make space beside the old tree. "I never thought you'd really come back," he confessed, voice thick with emotion. "I kept waiting, hoping. But there were days I wasn't sure." Sakura's gaze dropped, the weight of years pressing into the silence between them. "I was afraid. Afraid that after everything, we wouldn't be the same." He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear, an unspoken promise in his touch. "Maybe we won't be. But that doesn't mean we can't start again." Tears welled in Sakura's eyes, and for the first time in years, she let herself crumble a little. "I've carried so much guilt, the distance, the silence, the pain I couldn't share. But you were always there, even when I felt alone." Haruto smiled, a quiet warmth spreading through him. "I never stopped believing in you. In us." Together, they dug a small hole in the earth, the sapling's roots curling like a fragile heartbeat beneath the soil. As they planted it side by side with the old cherry tree, a gust of wind scattered petals around them like whispered blessings. Kaido's laughter echoed from a nearby path as he approached with Momo and Rin, their faces bright with surprise and happiness. "You two finally made it official, huh?" Kaido teased, waving a bottle of hot sauce. Momo grinned, glitter sparkling in her hair. "This calls for a celebration. The cafe's waiting for you both." Rin rolled her eyes but smiled softly, stepping closer to Sakura. "It's good to see you happy." Sakura nodded, her heart swelling with a fragile hope. The return wasn't just about planting a tree or finishing a book, it was about planting roots in each other's hearts again, despite everything that had come before. Haruto took her hand gently, intertwining their fingers. "No matter where life takes us, this moment will be our eternity." As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the garden, the two stood beneath the budding trees, two souls reunited, ready to grow anew. Epilogue: Blossoms ahead. The morning light spilled gently through the large windows of the cafe gallery, scattering soft beams across canvases and pages that lined the walls. The place was a living testament to their journey, art, poetry, laughter, and dreams all woven together like the branches of the cherry trees outside. Haruto stood behind the counter, carefully arranging a steaming bowl of ramen, sprinkled with just the right touch of Kaido's famously fiery hot sauce. His usually quiet demeanor was replaced by a subtle but genuine smile, a rare glimpse into the joy he felt. From the corner table, Sakura flipped through the latest batch of printed poems, the pages softly fluttering like petals in the breeze. Her fingers lingered on a poem dedicated to a boy who sketched my soul, the words now immortalized beyond the fragile memories she once held so tightly to her chest. She looked up, catching Haruto's gaze, and for a moment, the bustling cafe seemed to fall away. Two hearts sinking in silent understanding. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Sakura asked quietly, her voice a tender whisper against the hum of conversation. Haruto leaned in, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "Every day," he admitted. "But more than that, I think about how much more there is to grow." The door chimed and Kaido burst in with his usual chaotic energy. Trailing behind was Momo, glitter practically sparkling in the morning light, and Rin, who wore a rare, soft smile that belied her sharp tongue. "We're all here to celebrate," Kaido declared, brandishing a bottle of hot sauce like a trophy. "To the future, art, poetry, ramen, and all the chaos in between." Momo twirled, scattering more glitter, and Rin pulled Sakura gently aside. "You're stronger than you think. The way you opened up even when it hurt, it's inspiring." Sakura's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I couldn't have done it without him. Without us." Haruto's hand found hers across the table again, fingers intertwining with a quiet certainty. Just then, the bell above the door jingled softly as a woman entered. Mrs. Aizawa, Sakura's mother, her eyes misty but proud. She moved slowly to their table, placing a hand on Sakura's shoulder. "I'm sorry for all the times I was distant," Mrs. Aizawa said, her voice breaking with emotion. "But I'm grateful for how you never gave up on us." "On me." Sakura reached for her mother's hand, squeezing it tightly. "I love you, Mom. And I'm ready to heal together." Outside, the cherry trees swayed gently in the spring breeze, their blossoms a vivid reminder that endings were merely new beginnings in disguise. Haruto rose, pulling Sakura close. "Whatever happens next," he whispered, "we'll face it side by side." She smiled through tears, the weight of years lifting with the promise of tomorrow. And in that quiet cafe, under the soft glow of cherry blossoms and shared dreams, two souls found their eternity, not just in a moment, but in every day that followed. Thanks for watching our video. If you find this video interesting, then please subscribe our YouTube channel. If you're watching this video from TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram, then follow our page for more contents like this.